Introduction. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than words. Just because she's not calling, texting, or liking your post doesn't mean you're off her mind. In fact, you might be taking up more space in her thoughts than ever before. Women often process emotions differently. They can pull back physically while still feeling deeply connected emotionally. This pause in communication might not be rejection. It can be her way of protecting her feelings, testing your patience, or figuring out where she stands. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden reasons why she might be distant yet still deeply invested in you, the psychological signs she can't stop thinking about you, and how to handle the situation with confidence and clarity. 1. Silence doesn't equal forgetting. Silence doesn't equal forgetting. It's a truth that often gets misunderstood in relationships, friendships, and even in our own self-reflection. When someone chooses not to speak, it doesn't always mean the memory has faded or the feelings have disappeared. In fact, silence can be one of the loudest expressions of remembrance. Often, people remain quiet not because they've moved on, but because the weight of the memory is still so present that words feel inadequate. Memories can be like embers, quiet on the surface but still glowing deep within, capable of reigniting into vivid emotion when touched. Silence can come from a place of respect, allowing time and space to preserve what once was, rather than diminishing it with constant discussion. It can also be a sign of unresolved emotions, pain, longing, or even love that is too intense to verbalize. In such cases, silence is not a void. It is a container, holding within it the energy of what is remembered. Psychologically, the brain is wired to recall emotionally charged events more vividly. So even without verbal acknowledgement, those moments remain etched in one's inner world. A person might not speak about you, message you, or bring up the past, but they may still replay the memories in their mind. Conversations, laughter, shared experiences, sometimes more often than they'd like to admit. Silence can also be a form of self-protection, as speaking about certain memories might reopen wounds that were carefully stitched. In other cases, it's about dignity, choosing not to disturb the other person's life, even while carrying them in thought. Understanding this truth teaches us patience and emotional maturity. It reminds us that absence of words doesn't mean absence of sentiment. Some people carry entire chapters of their life in their hearts, without ever reading them aloud again. When you think someone has forgotten you because they are silent, remember that memory is not dependent on noise. It thrives quietly, often more deeply, away from the surface. Silence, in its own way, is proof of the endurance of what matters. It's just expressed in the language of stillness. 2. Emotional self-protection. Emotional self-protection is a skill of safeguarding your inner peace, mental stability, and self-worth from harmful influences, toxic people, and emotionally draining situations. It is not about becoming cold or unfeeling. It is about recognizing that your emotions are valuable and deserve to be preserved. At its core, emotional self-protection begins with self-awareness. You must understand your triggers, your emotional boundaries, and the patterns that cause you pain or stress. This awareness allows you to spot unhealthy dynamics early and step back before they consume you. Equally important is the practice of setting firm boundaries. Whether it's saying no to unreasonable demands, limiting time with negative people, or refusing to engage in unproductive arguments, boundaries act as invisible shields that protect your mental and emotional energy. Another key aspect is emotional detachment from outcomes you cannot control. Many people suffer because they tie their happiness to the behavior, approval, or affection of others. By focusing instead on what you can influence, your actions, your mindset, and your choices, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Emotional self-protection also involves cultivating a strong inner dialogue. How you speak to yourself shapes your resilience. Replace harsh self-criticism with supportive, realistic affirmations that keep you grounded when life becomes overwhelming. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, uplift your spirit, and encourage your growth. If you find yourself in emotionally manipulative situations, remind yourself that you have the right to walk away without guilt. Finally, take care of your mental health through habits like journaling, meditation, regular rest, and mindful breathing. These practices help you reset and regain emotional clarity. Protecting yourself emotionally is not selfish. It is necessary for maintaining your well-being, building healthy relationships, and living authentically. When you guard your heart wisely, You create the emotional space to love, give, and connect without losing yourself in the process. 3. Testing your patience and interest. Testing your patience and interest is a subtle but powerful dynamic that often reveals the depth of your commitment, self-control, and emotional maturity. In many relationships, whether romantic, professional, or personal, people will sometimes push boundaries, delay responses, or create small challenges to see how you react under pressure. This isn't always a conscious act. Sometimes it's simply human nature to assess another person's intentions by observing how they behave when things don't go their way. Patience is more than just waiting. It's maintaining composure, respect, and clarity of thought while you wait. When someone tests your patience, they may be trying to measure your consistency and resilience, especially in moments when immediate gratification is denied. If you become irritated, reactive, or impatient, it may signal to them that your interest is shallow or conditional. On the other hand, showing calm persistence demonstrates that your intentions are steady and not easily swayed by minor inconveniences or delays. Testing your interest is slightly different. It's about seeing if your engagement, care, or investment remains strong over time. This could involve reduced attention from the other person, unpredictable communication patterns, or even temporary withdrawal, all aimed at revealing whether you're genuinely invested or only involved when things are easy and exciting. True interest withstands the slow moments, the misunderstandings, and the occasional tests of endurance. The key is not to confuse healthy patience with allowing disrespect. There's a difference between enduring small tests and tolerating repeated mistreatment. The healthiest way to pass such tests is to combine empathy with boundaries, remain understanding of the other person's need for space or clarity, but also maintain your self-respect by not chasing endlessly or accepting behavior that erodes your dignity. Patience is attractive because it shows emotional discipline, while sustained interest communicates reliability. Together, these traits form the foundation of trust, which is the core of any meaningful relationship. If you approach these tests with self-awareness, you not only prove your worth to others, but also gain insight into whether the other person values your time and energy. In the end, these tests are less about winning and more about revealing truth, both about you and about the relationship itself. For processing feelings internally. Processing feelings internally is an essential skill for emotional intelligence, self-mastery, and mental resilience. It is the ability to acknowledge, analyze, and manage your emotions without immediately reacting outwardly. This does not mean suppressing feelings or denying their existence, but rather creating an internal space to observe them before deciding on a course of action. Many people make the mistake of responding impulsively to emotions, whether it's anger, sadness, jealousy, or excitement, which often leads to regret or misunderstandings. When you process feelings internally, you give yourself the advantage of time and clarity. You can ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Is it based on facts or assumptions? Is my emotional reaction proportionate to the situation? This reflective pause allows you to filter out irrational impulses and respond in a way that aligns with your values. Internal processing also strengthens emotional boundaries because you learn not to let external triggers control your inner state. It teaches patience and composure, two traits that command respect and foster better relationships. For instance, if someone criticizes you unfairly, your immediate emotional reaction might be to defend yourself harshly. But by processing internally, you can recognize that their words may stem from their own insecurities, not from an accurate reflection of your worth. This mental discipline helps prevent emotional exhaustion and keeps you grounded. Over time, processing feelings internally cultivates a deeper self-awareness. You start noticing patterns in your emotional responses and can address the root causes rather than constantly firefighting surface-level triggers. It also improves communication, because when you finally express your feelings, you do so with precision and calmness, making it easier for others to understand and respect your perspective. This practice is particularly powerful in high-stress environments, conflicts, or moments of personal disappointment, where impulsive reactions could damage opportunities or relationships. By choosing to process before reacting, you retain control over your actions and create space for wisdom to guide you rather than raw emotion. The more you practice, the less external chaos can disturb your inner balance. Ultimately, processing feelings internally is not about bottling emotions. It's about mastering them. It's a commitment to self-respect, personal growth, and emotional independence, ensuring that your responses are a product of thoughtful choice rather than temporary emotional storms. 5. Watching from a distance. Watching from a distance is a quiet, contemplative state where we observe life, people, and events without rushing to interfere or control them. It's a practice of restraint, patience, and emotional discipline, one that can teach us more about human nature than direct involvement ever could. Often, we feel the urge to step in, correct, or influence situations because of our own biases, attachments, or fears. But when we deliberately choose to step back, we begin to see the fuller picture. From a distance, we can detect patterns in behavior, notice the way emotions rise and fall, and witness the truth of people's intentions over time. This perspective allows us to make better judgments, because we're no longer clouded by the heat of the moment or the pull of our own desires. Watching from a distance is not the same as apathy. It's an active form of mindfulness, where our focus is sharp but our actions are deliberate and sparing. It teaches us that not everything requires our immediate response, and that time often reveals answers better than our impulses do. In relationships, this skill helps us avoid needless conflict by observing before reacting. In decision-making, it allows space for clarity to emerge naturally. It also cultivates humility, as we realize how little control we truly have over the actions of others. This detachment doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we care more wisely. We learn to respect the autonomy of others, trusting that their journey is theirs to walk, just as ours is ours. By watching from a distance, we can also guard our own emotional energy, choosing when and where to invest it rather than scattering it recklessly. In a world that rewards quick reactions, choosing to observe first is a radical act of wisdom. It's a way of saying, I will not be dragged by the current. I will stand on the shore and study the waters before I decide how to cross. Over time, this habit deepens self-control, sharpens intuition, and nurtures an inner calm that no external chaos can easily shake. It allows us to be present without being consumed, aware without being overwhelmed. Ultimately, watching from a distance is not about disengaging from life, but about engaging with it more intentionally, seeing more clearly, feeling more deeply, and acting more purposefully when the time is right. It is a skill that strengthens both the mind and the heart, giving us the power to respond rather than react, and to navigate life with a sense of steady, grounded clarity. 6. Fear of rejection or overinvesting. Fear of rejection and overinvesting in relationships are two deeply connected behaviors that can quietly sabotage your happiness, self-respect, and emotional well-being. At their core, both are driven by insecurity and a misplaced sense of worth that depends on someone else's approval. The fear of rejection often starts with an internal narrative, believing you are not enough as you are, that love or acceptance must be earned through proving yourself, pleasing excessively, or sacrificing your boundaries. This mindset can make you hyper-aware of signs of disapproval, reading too much into text, tone, or body language. The anxiety pushes you to overinvest, giving more time, energy, and emotional labor than is healthy, especially early in a connection. You start chasing validation instead of building a balanced bond. The problem is that overinvestment can create an unequal dynamic. You begin doing all the work while the other person offers minimal effort, because they know you'll stay. No matter what, this imbalance breeds resentment, burnout, and a sense of being undervalued. Ironically, the more you overinvest to avoid rejection, the more likely you are to experience it, because desperation is felt and often repels rather than attracts. The healthier path is to confront the fear itself. Understand that rejection is not a verdict on your worth, but simply a sign of incompatibility or different priorities. Value yourself enough to match effort, not exceed it. Realize that love, respect, and appreciation grow when two people meet as equals, not when one chases and the other receives endlessly. Setting emotional boundaries, pacing your investment, and cultivating self-validation help break the cycle. By detaching your self-worth from external approval, you gain the courage to walk away from situations where your value is not reciprocated. This shift turns rejection from a feared enemy into a filter, removing those who cannot or will not meet you at the level you deserve. The goal is not to never face rejection, but to stop fearing it so much that you lose yourself trying to prevent it. When you approach relationships from a place of self-respect and balanced effort, you give others the opportunity to earn you just as you earn them, creating connections that are rooted in mutual value rather than one-sided pursuit. In this way, you protect both your emotional energy and your dignity, and you stand firmly in the truth that you are worthy of love without having to overgive to prove it. 7. Letting you lead. Letting you lead is not about blind submission or abandoning one's own voice. It's about trust, respect, and the recognition of complementary strengths in a relationship or collaboration. At its core, it means creating space for another person to take the initiative, to guide the direction, and to bear the responsibility that comes with leadership. This is not always easy, especially for people who are naturally independent or who have been conditioned to believe that yielding control is a sign of weakness. In truth, letting someone lead is an act of strength and confidence because it requires you put aside your ego, release the need to micromanage, and believe in the capabilities of the person you are entrusting. It involves an unspoken agreement. I trust your vision, I trust your judgment, and I believe you'll consider my well-being as we move forward. This mindset thrives in healthy relationships, whether romantic, professional, or platonic, because it fosters mutual respect and balance. When one person leads well, it frees the other to focus on support, creativity, and adaptability. In romantic dynamics, this can be deeply attractive. It shows faith in the other's ability to provide direction and make sound decisions. In business, it streamlines teamwork and prevents power struggles. However, letting someone lead does not mean silencing yourself or tolerating poor direction. It means communicating openly, offering feedback respectfully, and stepping in if leadership falters. It's a dance. The leader must lead with humility and wisdom, while the follower must follow with trust and discernment. Over time, this balance can create stronger bonds, higher efficiency, and a shared sense of achievement. The real beauty lies in the fluidity. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow, and both roles are equally valuable when performed with respect and intention. Letting you lead, then, is not a loss of power, but a conscious gift of it, offering the hope that together you'll go further than either could alone. 8. Absence can increase desire. Absence, when used with wisdom, can be one of the most powerful forces in human connection. In relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, people often underestimate the value of space. When we are constantly present, available, and responsive, our presence can become so familiar that it fades into the background. The human mind tends to crave what it cannot fully possess, and the temporary removal of something desirable can trigger a heightened awareness of its value. This is why absence can increase desire. It creates contrast. When you step back, the void you leave behind becomes a silent reminder of your importance, allowing the other person to miss your energy, your presence, and the unique way you make them feel. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about maintaining a healthy rhythm of closeness and independence. In psychology, the scarcity principle suggests that people place higher value on things that are rare or limited. By not making yourself endlessly available, you give others a chance to experience that scarcity, which naturally enhances appreciation. Absence also invites reflection. Without constant interaction, the mind fills the empty space with memories, imagined scenarios, and the longing for reconnection. This internal narrative can deepen emotional attachment far more than continuous exposure can. However, balance is key. Too much absence can breed detachment, while too little can suffocate attraction. The sweet spot lies in giving enough space for curiosity and appreciation to grow, while still maintaining trust and connection. In practice, this could mean prioritizing your personal goals, maintaining friendships outside the relationship, or simply resisting the urge to respond instantly to every message. It's about creating moments where your presence is felt even when you are not physically there. In the end, absence works as a subtle reminder that your presence is not to be taken for granted. It teaches others to value your time, your attention, and your energy, and it teaches you to value yourself. By mastering the art of absence, you invite deeper respect, heightened desire, and more meaningful connections. Because when you finally return, the moment feels renewed, treasured, and far more significant than if you had never been away.